Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. Guys, this is a pretty big one. I did a video a few weeks back, actually a month and a half back, was Can Santa Claus Save Australia? Well, Australia, let me see if I could find it here. It's kind of funny. I got Santa Claus in the front. Where to go? Ranson Lifestyle. I think it's on here. That's way back now. It's way back. Guys, don't forget to support me on, if you want to send me a tip on PayPal, Patreon, donate $1 a month, BitChute, and Brighton, and also on BitTubers, guys, new channels. Should be links below if you're watching this on YouTube. We may be hacked. A lot of channels being hacked very, very, very soon. Okay, here's the deal, guys. This is being reported from us from Australia, from The Guardian. Can basically Santa or Christmas season turn the basically no confidence and consumer confidence and no banking confidence and no all these confidences that are out the window right now in Australia? Could Christmas turn things around? Can Christmas save Australia? Well, here it is. Final days, up to 60% off, store closures. Last chance to save. Weak GDP, no surprise, as economists declare household recession. The 0.5% Australian GDP growth for the third quarter was lower than forecasted by the Reserve Bank this week. But housing is taking off, guys. Housing is ready to skyrocket. Housing is ready to take off. Why? Because more and more people are leaving China's shores and they're finding ways to get their wealth out. They find several loopholes via studying, via students, via all kinds of ways. But although it might have caught Martin Place by surprise, it's not a great shock to many close observers of the Australian economy. With the retail sector on its knees, the sector is forecasting to grow at an anemic 0.3%. Really? So that many credit cards were sent out, eh? I guess more people are buying their toasters on credit cards. Figures due out on Thursday, wages still stagnant and serious doubts about whether it goes. So guys, other parts of the Commonwealth and the United States, put your ear to the speaker because you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. I think Australia's minimum wage is like 20, 21, 22 bucks an hour. Yeah, so people living in Canada looking at this, don't panic because it's true. It really is true. It's like 21. Comment below. Tell me what the minimum wage there. I think it's 22 bucks or 21 an hour. Wages still stagnant and serious doubts about whether the once booming construction sector can continue to support growth. So the construction boom sector was built off supply and demand illusion. They were building supply and demand. There's not enough supply to feed the demand. No, there wasn't enough supply to feed speculators and foreign investing. That's what the problem was, and they had to keep that going. The outlook touted by the RBA, that's the Royal Bank. It's not the Royal Bank of Australia. It's the, not the Royal Bank of Australia. I call it the Royal Bank of Australia. I don't know why. On Tuesday appears quite optimistic. All this comes despite economy effectively living on the life support. Yeah, it's on life support. Someone's listening to these videos somewhere, and I say that a lot. And ultra low interest rates, there is a growing expectation that the RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia, by the way, it's Reserve Bank of Australia, will reduce the cash rate to 0.25% next year, a level associated with the post-GFC emergency in US and Europe. So we're going to start hitting negative rate territory. Woo! We're going to be hitting negative rate territory, guys. That's what's going to have to happen to get things figured out here. Australia needs to go to the negative 7.67% negative. Yeah, where savers, people that save are being punished, and where borrowers are being praised. The annualized figure for the GDP is a healthy looking 1.7%. So healthy looking? So the bank appears, in some sense, justified in sticking to its glass half full outlook in its statement after the monthly monetary policy meeting on Tuesday, in which it kept rates on hold at 0.75%. It said after a bit of wobble last year, the economy appears to have reached a gentle turning point. It says growth will pick up 3% by 2021, but Wednesday's release by the Australian Bureau of Statistics suggests worsening picture. Strong exports in resource and service added 0.2% of 0.4% points. This is nothing! This is minuscule! Look at where it was in 83, 84. Another 0.2 coming from what they call the final domestic demand. But I am in a telling phase, as the ABS statement says government spending was the main contributor. Yeah, frivolous spending, and competing for wealthy investors to its later figure. But contrast private demand is in a recession. In other words, Australian households aren't spending the extra money gifted to them by the coalition tax cuts from historically low mortgage rates. Household expenditure increased just 0.1%, with particular weakness in spending on discretionary goods and services. Guys, people that hold mortgages in Australia, there's a small percentage of them that working out with the bank to go to the food bank to get free food, because either they lose their home or default on their mortgage and or have to deal with food banks now, and they get vouchers from the banks to go to the food bank. Why are taxpayers or poor people, working middle-class poor people, having to fund the food banks and then having to pay for people that own homes and own property and play this property wave and using their homes as ATM machines and withdrawing all their equity so they could be fed by the people that are not playing this game? It's kind of interesting, eh? In another sign of consumer weakness, sales of new cars fell 9.8% in November, the 20-month decline in a row, according to the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries. Doubt consultancy Capital Economics, which was one of the forecasters to doubt the RBA's rosy outlook, said on Wednesday that the measly increase in household spending was the slowest since the global financial crisis, that underlisted the government's tax cuts aren't providing any boost to consumer spending. Well, that's a problem, right? But how did people spend before when rates were 10, 12, 16%? People found a way to spend back in the day. They lived within their means, they were minimalists, and they focused on raising families, right? Now they need to focus on which car they need to buy, what kind of clothing they need to wear. They can't be caught dead seen with something or someone. Yeah, it's getting to a point where everything around you is completely fake. It said consumption could yet pick up, but estimated that GDP growth is still set to fall short of the RBA's optimistic forecasts. Looking ahead to next year, Capital thinks more rate cuts are nailed on, with a strong chance of money creation schemes such as quantitative easing by the second half of next year. Of course, devaluate your currency and your savings. Again, savers, not investors, but savers are being punished, while people that are basically playing this wave and playing with people's futures have nothing to worry about because they got their food banks to back them up now. Economists at UBS said the GDP remains soft, with little improvement so far from rate cuts and tax cuts, and households either save more or repay debt, seeing private demand fall into recession. Sarah Hunter, chief economist at BIOS Oxford Economist, said these figures spelled out chronic weakness in the household spending. Yeah, you don't say? It's been the weakest it's been since 1974. Consumer confidence. It's the lowest it's been since 1974. And that households have chosen to save the money from tax mortgage cuts, nothing that the savings rates jumped up to 4.8%. Look, that's when they start going into negative interest rates and they start banning cash and go fully electronic. Looking ahead, it's unlikely that we'll see a substantial acceleration in GDP growth in the near term. She said, broadly speaking, today's data confirms our view that on an annualized basis of pace growth is broadly likely to hold around 2% for the next 12 months. Josh Fendenberg had enough positives to defend his record when he responded to the GDP figures on Wednesday. Tax cuts were good for the economy, he said, and so was infrastructure spending. But unless those things translate into people feeling better off, a cloud will remain over the Treasury. Oh, yeah. They're going to have to go to... First, they're going to have to start banning cash. And then they're going to have to go to negative interest rates. And they're trying to repel the whole 10K tax withdrawal or 10K withdrawal thing that's been on the floor. They've been reading into law. They're basically really trying to get Australia on board with a bunch of stuff. And then they throw climate change into it and then racism into it. And then they find ways to get people swayed over into this cesspool of garbage. People need to put people in charge that actually understand these fundamentals and understand looking at pitfalls, looking at gains, reinvesting into, if they keep crying about being more green, they could have done what Portugal did. Okay, Portugal, I think it was 2 years now, it set a record for it went 5 days completely off-grid, beating Germany's 4 hours. And Portugal decriminalized drugs and created dissuasion centers where drug use is only a crime. Drug use is not a crime, but a sickness. And Portugal is doing the right things in this, and they created dissuasion centers with the tax money they made off or funding from the drugs. They basically created dissuasion centers, and people don't want to be sick anymore. And then now they're having no overdoses now on record. 0 overdoses. Now, here's the problem. They're pushing the green thing, but they're actually doing something about it and actually making showing people, And Portugal won, again, 3rd straight year in a row. Best place to travel, best place for expats, most friendliest people. Why? Because people migrating into Europe don't want to go to Portugal. Well, that's another topic for another day. But keep your eyes open to other smaller countries that have actual gold reserves in their city, underneath their city floors or city streets, that actually have an economy that's based off each other, not based off the bigger corporations or the bigger banks or the bigger, try to start looking at, you want to go green, and this whole green initiative going everywhere, and they're pushing it down people's throats, whether it's our GDP's low because of climate change, start doing what other countries are doing and learning from other countries, because you might learn a lesson. Anyways, can Santa Claus save Australia? Could people's spending habits increase during Christmas? I highly doubt so. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, because this is a big one. They're banking on consumer confidence, and it's not going to fly. Let me know. Comment below. Thanks for watching. Guys, get on these other platforms, on BitChute, get on Brighton, and get on BitTubers. You'll find me there, Mike Martins. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.